See, so
That was wonderful. What was it about the water drinking that was so spectacular to you?
I forgot what you said it.
That was so good to you?
The way you said it was.
Sounds nice.
Oh, are you gonna go now to bathroom? What's up, guys?
Hello.
So I'm back. The men's couch is back. We're talking about the development of relationships. We're gonna talk about what dynamics are played out and how relationships develop. What are some misconceptions about the development of relationships, and what do people get wrong about how we think we have expectations about how relationships should develop? See, you didn't think I could like just say all that out of just those words.
Well, given you've hosted for 6 seasons, I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah.
But it's still very good.
Yeah. So I think a big thing that people think about relationships is that they instantly develop like in an instant and you just instantly hit it off. Well, that works in some cases, but not all cases.
That's very true, yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult. It's very nice and it's lovely whenever that happens, whenever you meet somebody and you get along immediately and you have no issues. But the reality is the majority of relationships that you really spend any time in will have differences and will have difficulties that you have to move past.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be worked out, whether it's like different relational styles, different ways of communication, different things that you like. You and your potential partner or friend might not like the same thing, or you might have different interests, and you might have to work out navigating. Can maybe like let's hang out at the movies one time, and another time we'll hang out on like I don't know at a bar. So there's a level of sort of reciprocity that's involved whenever you are giving each other the space to do your own things and do your own hobbies because um I think it's something like yeah. So that's something that needs to be considered. We're talking about the development of relationships. How do relationships develop? I think like people have this idea that relationships develop quickly and that they develop to I don't know. We have this expectation, and I don't know if it's like from TV or if it's from sitcoms or whatever. Watching Friends growing up, I was a huge fan of Friends. I still am, and I like expected like my social life to build like so quickly as Friends does, and when it didn't, I felt like what am I doing something wrong? Or it can even go to like romantic relationships and how like people feel that you meet the one, you see them for 5 minutes, and then you're like head over heels in love. But that's not it doesn't like in reality it doesn't work that way. Or
Very
does it?
true.
Or does it?
I think so much of the perception that we have of the world is based off of what we see from Hollywood interactions. And it sets an impossible standard to follow up in real life. It occasionally happens, but the reality is that what we wouldn't see would be the struggles that people have. What we see on screen will be a highlight reel.
Is that why people are unhappy with what they
Absolutely.
have?
Yeah, they're chasing an impossible standard that isn't realistic. And that applies to so many other areas of your life. But especially in relationships, people think that if something doesn't work immediately, like they
Yeah.
see in film and television, that it isn't worth pursuing whatsoever. And the opposite really is true. That whenever you pull through those struggles, your relationship strengthens.
Yeah. Just like when we had to pull through you betraying me
Okay.
that one time. You betrayed you traitor. I'm
Okay.
just kidding. But no, like there's gonna be like there's a lot of realities in friendship relationships, dealing with family that you have to confront. And when it comes to family, we watch shows like Family Matters or like we see family on TV and we expect our families to look that way. And this is what I feel like there's another reason that like people get a lot of like people can struggle with depression during the holidays is because they're around their family more and their family doesn't meet their expectations of what family should look like. And it's not going to always be, oh, we're always close. It's not always going to be drama free. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things, because people are complex. We have a lot of flaws. We have, some people we have there's a lot of instances where family members aren't like aren't aligning with our ideals, we'll say, and that went against a lot of like you can't control them, you can't control what they decide to do, you can't control, and it's difficult. It's difficult when you're navigating those. And if we're looking into developing relationships with other people, we need to come in with realistic expectations, and so I think that's like what I think we need to think critically about our expectations with other people. We need to have reasonable expectations. I should expect you to I should expect you to be upfront and honest with me, but not at all the time. Sometimes you're gonna, f up or screw up. You're not always gonna like meet my expectations. Doesn't make you a bad person. Sometimes you're gonna, betray me and talk crap about me behind my back, but it doesn't make you like a bad person.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, there's really no standard guide that we can look to and ask how should a friendship be.
Wait, what?
There's no standard guide that we can really look to.
I
Qualification, because what we see is on screen. What we see are guys that
Yeah.
tend to be unrealistic
Yeah.
and they tend to look over problem resolution.
Yeah. I think there is a guide. I think it's not as upfront as it needs to be. I think there is like and even like developing romantic relationships. I think if you like do you have something to say? Yeah, you do. Yeah. Okay. So I think I think there's a level. Like that level is look at, you can look at your parents for example. Sometimes they can be a good example. Sometimes they're not an example of what a ideal healthy romantic relationship could be because they have like their own issues too. And I think it's all about um it's all about it's all about being aware of your expectations. I think especially when it comes to like developing relationships because you might feel like a lot of disappointment initially if it doesn't align with like, oh, this person isn't like my ideal. You don't know that. That takes time. And I feel like, I feel like the more secure a relationship is, the less like I feel like high it feels. I don't know if you can agree or disagree with that, Daph.
So you're saying the more secure, the less
Like
high you feel from it?
like the less like I don't know like another word to say it.
I think I know what you mean because when you have a relationship that leaves you guessing, then it
Yeah.
can be a little bit more exciting and
Yeah, like
captivating,
ooh, like
but ultimately it makes you feel a lot worse.
yeah.
So
The less
something you can count on in
like
a secure relationship is
there's more emotional
better.
neutrality. There's less like up and down. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, which
When it,
really isn't fun.
yeah,
Once you choose a relationship that makes you feel secure, you can have fun in other ways
yeah. So
that's actually fun.
yeah, and it doesn't like um because I feel like we get those like initial high feelings, then things don't pan out, and then things drop. And then we get used to like the up and down, but up and down is actually it's not healthy. Or do we think it is because we've been so bombarded with maybe media or things or culture that says that this should be how relationships should be, but this isn't in reality how a relationship should develop. It's a tough question.
No, I think stability is ideal. I don't think there's any circumstance where stability isn't to be sought after.
Is our relationship unstable?
I don't think so. I think it's very safe, very
Yeah,
stable,
I
very
feel like
consistent.
it's very secure. Yeah, I think I don't remember how our friendship developed. I don't that much. I just met you. I met you at you lied about like being from a different country,
Yeah, I did.
and that's how it started. So like initially, like in the initial stage, I didn't think like okay, I would be like good friends with you, but I was only judging the whole situation based off of like that interaction, and when you're like developing for the listeners when you're developing relationships, it's best to not necessarily go just off the interaction. I feel like in this culture with like now that we have access to more like therapy language and more language, we always go, okay, what are like the red flags? We kind of like look for things in people that are like mistakes or whatnot. We look for things, and then sometimes we can end up sabotaging something that's potentially secure and good.
Yes, I agree with this because that's something I've talked about with my therapist is that often I would try to, I guess, be ultra careful by, yeah, spotting red flags early. But sometimes it's like there just might be a difference of opinion,
Hmm.
or just anything. But jumping to calling it a red flag is, I feel like, just kind of popular
Yeah.
among people our age because we just
Yeah.
want to over identify everything and
Yeah.
categorize stuff. But really, you have to kind of view somebody as like a whole person and actually spend time to figure out, if there
Yeah.
are red flags. But also, just I feel like we need to stop adding so many words like that to our
Yeah.
vocabulary and focus on being mindful in the moment and not,
Yeah.
again, stressing about defining everything.
Yeah, those like black and white like statements, like listen, I make them. So like I'm gonna admit, like I've jumped to conclusions about people that weren't true or that weren't okay. But I think it's all about, like you said, it's all about having a sense of emotional neutrality isn't saying, okay, this person is all toxic. Like I could say like whatever I could say that night at the party, like, you're a very toxic friend, you don't care about me, da 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 da. Like I could say that, but that wouldn't be like that wouldn't be helpful for me because that puts me in a place where I'm shielding myself from you, and I'm not giving you a chance because that doesn't incorporate any level of vulnerability. That actually avoids having an adult conversation, which we did have, like I think it was like the day after or whatever. But that was like that avoids confrontation by if we put people in boxes when we're developing
Mhm.
relationships and we don't give people the benefit of the doubt or the chance to show you who they are. And like, listen, this like in the past, maybe I would have like given up because it's just who I was in the past. Who I was in the past, like I was a person to kind of like give up because I've been like so hurt and betrayed in the past that like it's hard to trust secure relationships. I feel like sometimes like the more secure a relationship or friendship is, the more anxiety you might have sometimes when like getting to know them or developing the relationship because you feel that when's the shoe gonna drop? This is like so secure. But yeah, like I think we need to give each other more of a chance, whether it's family or like what have you. We need to give people more of a chance. Now, this isn't to say like if someone is actually very like if someone is not let's put it this way. If someone is showing you like time and time again that they are emotionally immature or they're not like capable of developing a relationship, then it's time to like put up some boundaries. But people like, people make mistakes, people screw up. And I think when we're developing relationships, we can say like the first mistake they make that makes them like a terrible person. I shouldn't trust them like ever again. I think that's when we kind of those stories in our head. And listen, like I still struggle with it to a degree today, but I'm trying to like overcome that. If I want to develop more securely attached, you're gonna get the psych person out of me. Securely attached relationships. I need to let go of some of number one, the expectations, and let go of the fear of someone betraying you or this black and white mindset of people. That was a handful. So you go.
Yeah, that was a handful.
I know. Definitely wanted to say a response to some things, but I forget.
I forgot what they are by now.
Well, what was something that most resonate with you out of the paragraph I just said?
Well, that was more of a book, but what I can say
Okay.
is that it's very, very easy to allow a singular incident to define the way that you've seen a relationship, even if that relationship has been a very long relationship. And by doing so, you may compromise something very good as the result of a singular incident that by working by, you could reinforce a relationship instead of damaging or ending a relationship.
That makes a lot of sense.
I agree with that too, because I think you could see this in like marriages. Like
Mhm.
people are getting divorced a lot. Well, often if you discuss things and work through stuff with each other,
Mm.
if you do have that like base level of compatibility, you can survive like an argument or something instead of giving up and not communicating. But of
Yeah.
course that depends. Every situation makes a difference in if you would leave it or not. But it's having the conversation with people and trying to problem solve.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that I feel like we kind of miss sometimes. I don't know why I'm like shifting, but relate to this. Me and Royce, like we have a very close friendship, and sometimes like he pisses me off, and it's not like a bad thing. Like I don't know, sometimes he pisses me off, but also sometimes I could be like too demeaning to his character. I'm starting to realize that more recently. Like sometimes I joke around with him, but sometimes like it's not very like respectful to his character. And we had a conversation last night about it. The whole like development, if you will, like our friendship started. It was developed out of some parts were immature of like me always kind of like sometimes like jokingly putting him down like in a way, which he's fine with it, but still, it's a principle behind it. It's a principle about you gradually respect someone, and when we've had that conversation, I actually felt like a lot closer to him. So I felt like more understood. He felt more understood. We had a very good conversation. um, about like how sometimes like my anger towards him can get out of hand and I need to like settle down and like actually just chill out, which I've noticed. Yeah, because we've had our issues, but I feel like he's a very mature communicator, or he has become a very mature communicator. And, I'm glad that we're close and that, but like initially when it like I could have said, oh, like when it started like freshman year or and even like in high school, I could have said I would just give up. Like he's not like mature, he's not willing to develop a friendship. But that's just who he was at the time. And now that we've both matured in our own different ways, we're able to come together and kind of like have more better conversations, better communication, and just overall just we're able to have a happy and healthy dynamic. I could say like some similar things to members of my family. There's been I've hit rough patches with a few people in my family, and it was just we've kind of got like sucked into the weeds of like because there's like some parts of my family that I don't like their lifestyle all that much sometimes, and it can make me feel like uncomfortable going to visit them. But over time, like as I got older and more mature, I just learned to look past that and see, okay, what does this like relationship provide? It provides a sense of where can we have like common ground. It's like, oh, well, me and my grandmother both like to cook or bake. That's something that we have common ground in. We may not like always agree on everything, but as our relationship develops, we can we can have a relationship based off of building off of what our common ground is.
Yeah, and that's very important. I think that Royce was a very good example of how you both have incidents and you recognize yourself and any issues that you might have with him very, very well. That's essential. But also just not allowing small incidents to spiral and destroy what is a very beneficial and very long relationship that you've had in your life. And it would be easy for him to take offense at things that you say and for you to take offense at things that he says. But there is no real reason to do that, and it's fantastic that you, and hopefully him as well, are examining yourselves and asking, is what I'm saying, is what I'm doing, is how I'm acting harmful towards the other person in this relationship? It can be so much more difficult to be forward and honest with somebody and try to be confrontational as opposed to apology.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you said something that he doesn't like, it'd be much easier for you to apologize to him
Mm.
than it would be for him to confront you about it. And I think that goes for both of you as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I think it's harder, confrontation is more difficult on both of you.
Yeah.
When apology really only puts any sort of a burden on you, there may be a small amount on him, but overall, you apologizing and recognizing your wrongdoing is much easier than him calling it out and then potentially spiraling and escalating into something worse.
Yeah. But see, like, I don't know. I think when it comes to when we're developing relationships, when it comes to things like confrontation, I think people are always afraid, and we usually avoid conversations that need to be had. So we like sometimes we'll gloss things over with like saying we're sorry when really I don't really like don't you rarely hear me use the word sorry. I don't like the word because I feel like sorry is just like it's just a temporary band-aid over like a larger issue. And I feel like if we can do a lot better when we resolve conflict through confrontation. And confrontation, I don't like even confrontation, I think it has a negative connotation. So I think even maybe let's say if we resolve conflict through just conversation, because that's really what we did. Me and Royce last night. It was just we just had a conversation about it, and I think people are kind of like afraid to even like get to that level. So if you're developing like a long-term romantic relationship, a long-term familial relationship, or long-term friendship, then you have to like I feel like on some level when you get like into the weeds of conflict or whatever, it's all about like just having like a conversation and just checking in like hey and kind of like what I did and meaning like what you did was kind of off, like hey, like my anger got out of hand, or hey, like I didn't appreciate what you did, or hey, I didn't appreciate you betraying me I'm just kidding. I didn't appreciate you ganging up on me. I'm joking. Yeah, it's all about conversation. I feel like we're like afraid to have it because we're afraid of like the other person's reaction. We're also afraid that we're like being too much, which is never like too much. It's just It's just a conversation. People think, oh, a conversation is like the end of, that means like the end of a relationship.
Yeah, I do think that serious conversations are often misinterpreted and avoided because they are viewed as final.
Yeah.
But in reality, it should be viewed as another step.
Yeah. Relationship building.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why do you think people delay conversations that need to be had, or they don't seek those conversations out?
Well, one thing I think is that delay compounds. I think the longer that you wait for something, the longer that you are inclined to wait, as that anxiety in both parties, or however many parties there may be, tends to accumulate over time. And so naturally the delay, they're not clear. There's no real clear communication on what is occurring. And so when you don't know how somebody else feels and you don't try to find out immediately, you have so much time to think and get all the wrong thoughts in your head about what is occurring. And so that builds a wall that's very difficult to get through or to get over whenever you do finally want to have that conversation.
Yeah, you said a lot. Like there's what I'm like gathering is like having narratives about someone that you're in a relationship with, and like you, when it's like post-conflict analysis, and you kind of have your interpretation of what happened, but the person isn't on the same page, so you just assume that, oh, I'm just not going to talk to them. And what happens is you kind of push them further and further away without having a conversation. And you need, when really you need to just sit down and talk to clarify things. And also, like, I just feel like we don't value like having conversations. We value more like the ego, like the pride, like I'm right and I need to get my point across. And I like this doesn't really help you. Like maybe it helps to soothe your ego, but that doesn't help to, it doesn't help to when you're trying to build a connection with someone. And we're so like focused on being right that we miss, okay, what are some areas that I need to grow while developing this relationship? And maybe my narrative or maybe my interpretation of the conflict is completely wrong. We're afraid to admit that. We're afraid to admit this is, I could be way off kilter with this, what it was what happened. But we won't kind of be aware of that until we talk to them.
Yeah. And that's why it's so essential not to delay speaking to people. Whenever you have a conflict, if you allow that to become sort of a cold conflict and to just freeze over and never address it, it becomes infinitely more difficult to eventually address.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we are avoiding things, then that kind of tells our brain that the thing that we're avoiding is very dangerous. And when we do that, it's like a mound. It just builds up over time, and you have all this relational baggage that you need to really confront. Now, when we're talking about like developing relationships, there, like, you pick and choose your battles. Not everything needs to have a conversation. Not everything needs a conversation. Like, it really depends on what it is and what you feel is valuable to address. Not everything needs like that level of confrontation. And I think that's another thing too. Like sometimes like you can be like me and confront everything that you feel like needs to be confronted, and it actually really doesn't. Sometimes it just needs to be put on the bookshelf. And sometimes you just need to like relax. But you like in your mind, you tell yourself, okay, this is like a huge issue, this is a huge issue, this is a huge issue. Then that also, like, you're also kind of like stressing out like the other person. And you're like, I'm not saying it's, I would say making like a mountain out of a molehill. We'll say that. It's not saying that it's not what you're trying to address is not important, but sometimes like you have to give it like a sense of maybe it isn't as important as I would like to think, because sometimes we can overthink and think that something like it's really needs to be talked about right now, and it really doesn't. And I think we think there's a lot of thinking. We think that if we don't talk about it, then that means the relationship is going to deteriorate. And this is an example is I'm in therapy, and whenever there's some things that I'm just not ready to talk about in therapy, and there's some things that I tackle head on, people like the feedback from that I've gotten from like my therapist is that not everything needs to be talked about right now. It's not going to affect like you not being all vulnerable in this moment in time is not going to affect the therapeutic relationship. And I think that's so important to realize that people think that vulnerability is I need to spill out everything in this moment in time, but it really is just It really is. Sometimes you might focus on this area at this time, and sometimes you're focused on something else. And it's really about picking and choosing your battles.
Absolutely, yeah. And whenever you are vulnerable, if you try to spill everything at once, inevitably you're going to overlook something.
Yeah.
And it's likely going to be something very important and something that can develop into much worse than what it is right now.
Yeah. I think there is a lot of, like, I think sometimes we can say too much in one setting. We don't always do a good job of breaking things apart and breaking things up and tackling things one step at a time. I feel like a lot of men like want to tackle all their demons or tackle all their shadows like in one day, but it's not actual, like,
It's not really manageable.
it's not realistic. It's not realistic.
Yeah, it's very true. I think that also, as men in the modern world, and even throughout history, the issues that we have usually been contained.
Yeah.
We haven't tried to bring them out. Consequently, whenever we do bring them out, there have been so many of them that they all come out at once. And it can be very, very difficult. It's better to address them as they rise than to address them all at once after you've tried to push them down for so long and simply are no longer capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think a lot can happen, and I think this happens a lot through anger when we have like things that are like, or trauma or whatever. We have like trauma stored up, but I feel like it usually comes out into anger, where we compartmentalize certain parts of our identity or things that we struggle with, and then something triggers it, and then it all kind of comes out. But I think it's kind of like a sign that we struggle with knowing how to confront things piece by piece over time, and like in our own personal journeys. And I think, but it's also kind of like easier for a time because sometimes we don't want to like confront things, and it's difficult to confront things. That's why I'm in therapy. It's like I couldn't do it like on my own because I'm not someone that likes to like confront things. Even though I have a whole podcast on it, like sometimes it's just like it's hard to look at things that you would rather not look at, because it's like you just have to experience, like, I guess what's called an ego death, or you have to experience something. It's like a sense of humility, and that's a different like podcast episode. But either way, sometimes ego death is required to develop a relationship. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Too many relationships fail or never even start because people look at each other and they refuse to compromise. They refuse to be told they're wrong. They refuse to even really make space for any sort of difference of opinion, belief, or preference. And that really destroys a lot and really stops a lot of potentially really beneficial relationships from taking root.
Yeah, I think because we think we see a lot of things in black and white. Either they have the same political side as me, either they have like the same family background as me. It's like those things, or either they have to agree with me on everything so this relationship can work. But that's a lot, like that's very controlling. Like I see like why I need to have some conversations with my friend Royce, because I was trying to kind of control like what he was, like what he does sometimes, and it's not like healthy to like always do that. And I needed to like kind of like experience like an ego death of like, what I can be a friend, but I also cannot. There are some things that are just kind of overstepping, some things that are like out of pocket, and I need to like catch myself doing that. And also like same thing with him, like there's some things that he says that can be like not okay, and we have conversations around that. I could, like, part of me could just be like, he said this thing that offended me, I'm just gonna give up, I'm gonna withdraw, I'm gonna like shut everything down. That's not good at all, because you don't like you don't give people like a chance, or you don't give if what they have showed you so far is that they're consistent, but they made a mistake, then it's not something that you should just throw away, because consistency is key, I feel like.
Absolutely, yeah. And the reality about consistency is that I think it can be used as a guide. If you see consistent good things coming from a relationship, and then you have one or two instances where it's not the case, focus on what is consistent.
Yeah.
And if things are consistently negative, then that's a point where you should consider ending a relationship.
Yeah.
Or stepping back. Because yeah, it's so easy to focus on the most recent and what you feel like is the most severe incident, whatever that may be, and completely forget about every good thing that happened just because one negative thing happened.
Yeah.
And it's also inversely possible to forget about an entire catalog of negative events that have occurred to you just because something nice happened recently. So I think that you can use what happens most consistently as a medium to determine the healthiness of a relationship.
Yeah, I relate to that because I tend to focus a lot on what's going wrong, and I tend to kind of overemphasize that. And sometimes it could like influence my decisions in regards to how I connect with the people around me because I feel like, well, this one thing happened, this conflict happened, and I can see that as like defining like the whole history of the relationship. But yeah, we should approach things like historically and based on consistency to see like, okay, is this person actually like, are they actually consistent, or are they actually, do they follow through? Are they consistent in that way? Because it is easy to want to give up and want to just say like, okay, this thing happened, like we're done, like I'm never talking to you again. But that's not realistic. If you're trying to develop something long term, that's not realistic. Yeah, I want to say something, but I forgot. I'm kind of getting tired, Loki.
You've been here for a while.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just tired.
Yeah, me too.
You
I
wanna?
don't really have anything else to say. I think
Oh.
it's been a productive episode.
Yeah, I just think overall, like, if Usher betrays you, don't trust him. He's a terrible person.
Sure, yeah.
He's
It's
terrible.
very true.
Terrible person. No, I think, yeah, I think whenever we had like that one thing, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I think it kind of, I think some and conflicts can sometimes be seen as a test, as like, can this relationship develop to the next level? Can this go to where you want it to go? And I think we need to kind of reframe how we look at things like conflict, because I think it's conflict can be seen as an opportunity to develop a relationship on a deeper level. Also things, and just, I feel like I guess advice, if you will, is to give relationships the time that they need, whatever relationship it is. Give it space to breathe. And sometimes you need to put things on the bookshelf and see how things go. I think we have a hard time letting things just be when it comes to developing relationships.
Sure.
I'm very tired.
But yeah, me too.
Yeah. This has been Men's Couch.
It has been.
Thank you thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Please subscribe to our Instagram, YouTube channel, and listen to us on Spotify.
I'm not repeating all that, but yeah, please do those things.
Austria.
Micah.